Black prosecutors fight for fairness, we'll talk about that in a bit, Laura Coates, and former FBI Deputy Assistant Director and author of Compromise, Counterintelligence, and the Threat of Donald J. Trump, Peter Strzok. Peter, let me start with you on this question about the January 6th indictments, partly because we've seen some reporting that there was reluctance by the Attorney General, Merrick Garland, to potentially go this far to have this camera type of thing. You, of course, are familiar with the way the system works on the inside. You have an understanding of how politics can affect these things, even if they're not officially supposed to. What is your sense of the willingness inside the Justice Department to actually take this to the former president himself?
Well, I think Justice is doing exactly what I would expect them to do, and that is to be very cautious with doing
But do it faster. It's Martin Luther King Day already.
as well as crimes that potentially
It'd be the perfect day.
stuff. So, to the extent there's reluctance, I think that is simply being careful to ensure that when you get into
But you're gonna get it.
Sedition and seditious obstruction, and that entails a great deal of being very careful because of how close that comes to the First Amendment. So I don't think it's reluctance to charge. I think it is very much a desire to make sure that every element of the crime is satisfied, but to the extent that there are defenses to these crimes, that they are addressed by the evidence that justice has. So again, I would caution that all investigations, all prosecutions take time. And when you get to something like this, where they're very complex conspiracies, it takes additional time. And certainly, as we move forward and we see things going up the chain, that as we move to people around former President Trump and the former president himself, I would expect those to be proceeding incrementally, but I do think that's going on right now.
Peter, one more question to you. This is based off the Washington Post report overnight, which went into who has not been called yet, who has not been asked questions yet, and that includes, among others, the federal investigation here, Brad Raffensperger, the Secretary of State of Georgia. And we know that Donald Trump called a meet on to find votes there. So what would the reason be that they're not calling some of these people?
Well, I think 2 points. The first point is that in many instances, when you start getting to people at this level, you get one shot, typically, in an interview. And in many cases, these folks are either not going to want to talk to you or have many reasons to not tell you the truth. I mean, look, Roger Stone, at this point, is a convicted obstructionist, a convicted liar. He's pardoned, but that doesn't quite weigh his convictions. So if you go into an interview with somebody, you want information that is going to cause them to tell you the truth. You want things like phone records or text messages or emails. But to your other point, the question I would ask is certainly when you look at former President Trump, the crimes that he allegedly committed aren't simply those of January 6th. And they aren't in terms of storming the Capitol. You look exactly what you said about his calls to Georgia officials trying to find additional votes. I mean, heck, you look back at all the potential acts of obstruction that Special Counsel Mueller laid out. You look at all the potential tax fraud that was going on with properties in New York and elsewhere. When you say, are you investigating Trump, a very important aspect of that question is to say, well, what are you investigating him for? Because one of the things I do worry about is while there may be investigations moving forward on the January 6th front, what is going on with all these other potential crimes that he engaged in, even predating his presidency, that DOJ may or may not be looking at? And that's very important.
That we were expecting him in jail for January 22nd last year.
About not just the ongoing investigations
And
in the
he was
Department of
expecting
Justice,
it.
whether they're from before or, of course, related to January 6th, but also the congressional investigation that is going on in the special committee on the House side, those two things running in parallel. How do they interact with each other, if at all?
It's a good point to make here, Casey, that it's actually on parallel tracks, right? They are going to intersect many key points. In particular, the fact that, remember, kind of like as Peter mentioned, the Mueller probe, when people were elected to talk to the congressional committee because there was a Mueller probe, one person could put you in jail if you got the answers wrong, shall we say. The other had a legislative intent and oversight function. I expect there's going to be some overlap there in the same way here, thinking, well, listen, the DOJ is already charged with conspiracies or very, very serious crimes. There is now a sort of Damocles over the heads of those who may have been involved and had conspired or aided and abetted in some way or facilitated or maybe even financed what they thought would be a violent insurrection. And so now you've got this idea of Congress trying to, on the one hand, get information from people who are not cooperating among their own colleagues, and also others who they may have yet to interview, who are now worrying, if I provide an answer, will I be referred to for criminal action because of the DOJ's now concerns? Now, of course, they are supposed to go on parallel tracks. One does not have the heads up of the other, nor should they, because their roles are very different. But they are going to have implications for both. And if there is fluidity in the information, it will actually aid both investigations.
All right, Peter Strzok.